so this video, you stand a bit closer, it's all about a history of my pets so far. I'm trying not to laugh because there are some amusing stories in this, hopefully. For those of you who don't know, and most of you probably are aware, I do suffer from, unfortunately, from bipolar affective disorder. And I've been unemployed for some time now, although I've worked all my life up until receiving that diagnosis. I do currently work in a charity shop for sick and injured, raising money for sick and injured animals even, and I have done for some time, both because of my love of animals in general and my belief in charity. But it started off basically, I've only been told this, I don't remember this, but Mum used to have a cat when I was, I don't know, baby, up till I was about 3. And my dad hates cats, and he hates Margaret Thatcher, so that was its name to him. All I remember is I used to try and eat the cat food. That's all I can remember about that cat. And then we moved and we didn't have any animals at all. Until we moved to Derby, when we were allowed and enabled to get some rabbits. And they were black and white, so I think they kind of called our English rabbits. And they're male and female, so they had separate hutches. And then one day, Mum and Dad called me to the window and said, "Look, Rachel, the rabbits are mating." I was only 9, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And so she's actually being raped in her own home. And I'm laughing, not because of the concept of rape, because that's not funny. It was their faces. The fact that I understood the concept at that age. Sorry. Anyway, consequently, they have baby rabbits, quite a few, if I remember rightly. It was the 80s, so you were allowed to do this then. We took them into school to show the whole school, and they all had a little stroke and everything like that. And I don't know where they went. Obviously went onto home, something like that. We didn't keep them all. We just kept the mum and the dad rabbit. No baby rabbits apart from Grandma. My blessed Grandma had the grey one, and she loved that rabbit and was a house rabbit, but sadly it like nibbled on bits of carpet and things like that and didn't last very long and it died. But she was a feeder, so we suspect that might have had something, not that she fed it bits of carpet, but we suspect that might have had something to do with it. It was a little bit obese. But then when I was around 11, we were allowed a dog. So we looked in the local paper and found some puppies, and that was a Border Terrier Jack Russell cross. No, was it Border Terrier? I can't, it's Border Terrier based anyway. Dog, puppy, 8 weeks old. And we called it Gizmo because our favourite film at the time was Gremlins. It did look a bit like a mogwai, if only it was one. Anyway, so I had Gizmo for some time. She's a beautiful, beautiful dog. I loved her. Mum used to walk the dogs when we were at school because she wasn't working at the time. But we also had some guinea pigs at mine. And being a Neighbours fan, the rabbits had died by this point. One was orange and gingery coloured, so I called it Kylie. And don't ask me why. One was black and orange, so I called it Flo. Don't ask me why. But I did look after them really, really well until they sadly passed away. I can't really remember how they died. That was some time ago now. But coinciding along with Gizmo, we were allowed hamsters. And we each had hamsters, 3 of us, so there's me, my sister and my brother. I had a little Syrian hamster who I called Jason because of my love of Jason Donovan at the time. And my brother had like this really big orangey hamster, and he called him Hammy Thompson. Now the Thompson part, the Hammy's obvious, but the Thompson part comes from his favourite athlete, which was Daley Thompson. My sister, affectionately known to me, because I can't stand her, is called the Panda. Known to me as a panda because basically she's fat, lazy and can't have children herself. Had gerbils, one white, one orange, in like this converted old fish tank, and they had little babies and sometimes they ate them, as they do. I don't know why. And sometimes we just used to like pass them on to good homes. But another hamster that I had when I was in my 20s, when I moved out of my family home, because I love hamsters so much, I decided just to get a little hamster. and he was called Frank Sparky. I don't know where the Sparky bit comes from, but he got a surname too. And he came to Harborne with me when I moved, and he was a lovely little thing. He lasted quite a long while actually, so I must have clearly taken good care of him. I had to take him to the vets to be put to sleep, sadly, but they let me say goodbye to him and let me bring him home in a shoebox. And I buried him in the garden and sat drinking wine, listening to Radiohead because I was so sad. So yeah, we had no cats until I moved to Harborne, and I decided to get a cat from a local rescue centre. Even though I wasn't meant to have any animals, I still defied that and went to go and get this cat because I'd never been allowed a cat, you see. Dad hates cats. So I got a cat, and don't ask me why, but I called him Stefax. I've got to go back to a couple of dogs that I've missed out, so I must remember that. But I then proceeded, because I love dogs so much, get my own dog, own puppy, again from Derbyshire, a little terrier cross, black and white thing called Millie. And she was beautiful, so I had her from a puppy, and I was working at the time, and it was flexible hours, so I could come back at lunchtime, make sure she was okay, rush back from work, make sure she's okay, walk her, etc. I go at the gym for that dog. I used to train 4 times a week at a really nice gym near work, but just started to walk the dog instead. So and then one day I decided to get another dog to go with Millie. Wasn't the best decision. They were both female, and sometimes they didn't get along. Millie being bullied a little bit by Ruby, who was a Staffordshire cross. But they were both beautiful dogs. Used to walk them all the time and loved them. And then I became pregnant, and it was decided that basically I had such a fucking lazy partner at the time that I wouldn't be able to cope with the dogs. And Dad, if I remember rightly, rehomed Ruby, and I kept Millie right up until I could, and poor old Stefax. So I had those two with me, and then I rehomed Millie after my son was born, actually, because I couldn't bear to be parted from her. So Stefax mysteriously disappeared when I came back from hospital. So I say Dad hates cats, and he said children and cats don't mix. So I came back from hospital to find he'd gone, and Dad had taken him to a local rescue centre, praying that I hadn't had him chipped, and said he found him as a stray. So I guess that's what happened to Stefax. I'll never know with you, Dad. So hopefully he went on to a good home. And then when my son was a bit older, I decided to get another cat from the same rescue centre that I got Stefax from. And she was beautiful, she was stunning, she was black with like these big green eyes, and I called her Daphne after my favourite author, Daphne du Maurier. And then I proceeded to, for some reason, foster cats. So I remember the first foster cats I had was like these 2 sisters who obviously hadn't been spayed, and both got pregnant. No, was it a mum and a daughter, both pregnant at the same time, something like that. Anyway, you're not meant to name them or anything, but I did. So I called one Margot. She was beautiful, and she had 2 kittens first, and the other one had this big like ruff of fur around its neck, the younger one. So I called that one Ruffles. Ruffles tried to have its children in my son's cot. Sorry, kittens, not children. So I had to remove that fairly swiftly. It had its own cupboard and every night I didn't lock it in there. It had its own adequate housing area. And I just woke up one day and all these kittens were on the floor, and I was just like, oh my god, a miracle has occurred. And I kept them. I didn't get to keep any of the kittens. I wanted to keep one of Margot's children. Kitten, sorry. I didn't name it, I don't think. It was a male, and he was just beautiful. Anyway, they went on to better homes. But going back to dogs, alongside Gizmo, Dad came back from school because he's head teacher, and came back from school one day. There's the local council, I think it was, dog rescue place. It was literally around the corner from us. Anyway, found this stray dog. He really, really liked him. So we all were like, oh, brilliant, we'll have another dog. So Dad said yes. So off he went and came back with Basil. We called him Basil. And my mum hated him. I don't know why. It might have something to do with the fact that he tried humping her arm and shit like that, and Gizmo wasn't a big fan either. Anyway, I love this dog too. He was a stray, he must have been about 6 months old. Found on the streets, walked into Dad's school, etc., etc. And he was so hungry and so used to rifling through bins that he actually ate orange peel out of our bin, which is a bit sad. Anyway, Basil was curled up on my bed one day while I was just sat doing my homework like a good girl. And Dad came in and said, Basil's got to go. And I was like, what do you mean Basil's got to go? Where? Where's he got to go? God. And oh, okay, I said that. So I started crying. I said, why? Why has he got to go? What are you going to do with him? Oh, God. And basically, Mum hated him so much, she wanted to get rid of him. Send him back to be put down at the council place. So my crying and pleading worked because Dad walked off down the corridor. We live in a bungalow, walked down the corridor. No more was said about it. Basil got to stay. I goddamn love that dog. And I was getting old, I was about 15 and got on to 17 and Basil was still there. And I went to college. And Mum again walked both the dogs, properly hating Basil as she did so. But I walked the dogs too. We had a nice area to walk them in, etc., etc. And Basil would wait for me when I came back from college and have my fish finger sandwich and watch Neighbours, then go off to do my work, whatever I did. And yeah, I went away to university and he disappeared. I don't know why or how to this day Basil disappeared, but we searched for him, or I searched for him intently as much as you can do whilst being at Reading University and him being in Derbyshire. And I phoned home one day, we phoned home every day actually, and Dad answered the phone and he said, we found Basil. And I was like, wow, where did you find him? Oh my God, I'm elated. And he just went, we haven't really found him. So why did you just say you had then? He goes, because I was hoping that we wouldn't disappoint you. I was like, oh. So I came back from university in December and went on a big Basil search, but we never found him to this day. He ran away when I left. I think that's so, I was so sad, and that's how much we love one another. Anyway, after Basil, a family dog we had, I don't know how or why we got this one. I think this might have been something to do with the panda. It was called Cyril. And he was just like this collie almost, like a collie cross, really, really fluffy and orange in colour. And so Gizmo was still going, and Cyril and Gizmo used to knock about with one another. They tolerated one another, and Cyril used to love lying by the fire and being brushed and everything like that. I was much older by then. I think I was at university or had returned home or something like that. Anyway, Mum and Dad split up in 2001, and we had to sell our family home. And I looked after Cyril as much as I could, and again in another rented house. I shouldn't have done, but I couldn't. I was working too much, and I just couldn't care for him properly. So he got rehomed, went on to a good home. And let me just check up. Oh no! And then some time ago now, after my life turned to shit and I was trying to rebuild it, I got a dog from Birmingham Dogs Home, Border Collie. He's around 8 when we got him, so considered one of the older residents, and called him Walter, but he was just known as Doggy to me, to be fair. And he helped me immensely recover from quite a depression at the time, because I was walking again, and exercise has been proven to help improve your mood, etc., etc., and having something to look after, blah 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 blah. And sadly, he got cancer a couple of years ago. So this big lump come up on his nose, and biopsy diagnosed it, and he just lost all his faculties really, really quickly within about a couple of weeks, and had to be put to sleep. And then last year, this is the final one now, I decided to get Jasmine a kitten. Again, I shouldn't really have done it because we're only in a little flat and it's rented. Sorry about that, Tim. Yeah, so I looked in on a place I shouldn't really have got an animal for. I won't mention it, but I did get an animal from there. pay £70 for her, and she was white, which I found quite attractive. But it turned out I took her to the vet and she was deaf. Well, she still is deaf because she's still alive. But I didn't mind, it didn't make any difference to us. I won't say much more about her because there is a bit of dispute over who owns that cat at the moment. She isn't with me, but we named her Dior, or as she was known, Catty, to Jasmine. And she's a beautiful little kitten. I think that brings me to the end and the summary of the history of my pets so far.